Hello, dear students. Today we are going to read the next poem, the Ball Poem, of your book First Flight. The Ball Poem is written by John Berryman. Let's read about the poet first. John Berryman was born on October 25, 1914. He was an American poet and scholar born in McAlester, Oklahoma. He was a major figure in American poetry in the second half of the 20th century, and he was considered a key figure in the confessional school of poetry. His best known work is The Dream Songs. Before we read the poem, it's important to know the learning outcomes. So after reading this poem, you will be able to recite the poem with proper stress, intonation and rhythm. You will be able to explain the central idea of the poem. You will be able to learn to accept the sudden losses and cling on to something that they can never have. You will be able to identify the literary devices and rhyme scheme of the poem. You should be able to develop the ability to understand the difficult situations in your life. And finally, you should be able to discover that money cannot bring the original lost things back. It can only replace them. Let's understand the poem in detail. What is the boy now who has lost his ball? What is he to do? I saw it go merrily bouncing down the street and then merrily over. There it is in the water. Let's see the meanings first. Merrily means cheerful. Bouncing means jumping up and down. So here the poet, in this first stanza, the poet introduces the situation presented in the poem. So the poem is about a little boy who has lost his ball and he does not know how to get it back. He fails to understand how he should get it back. The poet himself watches it bouncing down the street into the water. The poet himself sees it going towards the river. So the ball is shown to have gone away merrily. It is bouncing merrily. But the boy is sad at its loss. Here a contrast is presented. So for us, the loss of a ball is of minor consequence. For the poet, it may be of a minor consequence. But to the little boy, it is a valued possession. He cannot bear the sight of his ball going towards the river. Next stanza. No use to say, oh, there are other balls. An ultimate shaking grief fixes the boy as he stands rigid, trembling, staring down all his young days into the harbor where his ball went. I would not intrude on him. A dime another ball is worthless. Now he senses first responsibility in a world of possessions. Here are some of the meanings for you. Shaking grief means sadness which greatly affects the boy. Rigid means stiff. Trembling means shivering. Harbor means a place where ships may moor. Moor means where the ships are tied in order to make them stay in the same place. Intrude on means to enter a situation where one is not welcome. A dime means 10 cents of US money. Now this stanza explains the mental state of the boy who has lost his ball. The narrator does not try to calm him down because he knows that the boy is so much troubled, the boy is so much grief stricken at the loss of the ball that it is of no use to console him. He cannot be pacified by the statement that there are other balls to play with. He needs that ball only because he is attached to that ball. The boy is profoundly affected by the loss of the ball because it has been with him for a long time. All his memories of the past days flash in front of him. because he used to play with that ball only. So this leads to a realization that those moments would not come back, just like the ball. And ball here is symbolic of the childhood days of the boy. The ball here is symbolic of the loss of the childhood innocence of the boy that leaves him maturer, that makes him maturer now. Why maturer? Because he is understanding a life lesson here, that losses are a part of life. The poet does not try to soothe the boy, as through this experience the boy will learn the meaning of loss on his own and how to take care of one's possessions, one's material in this materialistic world. Further, the poet does not even offer him money. Dime here means money. Does not offer him any money to buy another ball, because that would be worthless for the boy. Because for the boy, only his previous ball is valuable for him. He does not need a new one. His emotions, his sentiments, his feelings are attached to the previous ball. But on the other hand, he has to learn a life lesson also, and he learns a life lesson that losses are a part of life and we have to accept them. Third stanza. People will take balls. Balls will be lost always, little boy, and no one buys a ball back. Money is external. He is learning well behind his desperate eyes. The epistemology of loss, how to stand up knowing what every man must know, must one day know, and most know many days how to stand up. Possessions mean something that is owned or possessed. Desperate means hopeless. Epistemology of loss means understanding the nature of loss, like what it means to lose something. Again, epistemology is a Greek word, episteme. It has been originated from a Greek word, episteme, which means knowledge. It comes from a word meaning to understand, to know. So, epistemology is the study of the nature of knowledge itself. Now, in this stanza, the poet tells that the boy has to learn that in this materialistic world, many of his belongings will be lost. Many of his things will be lost. And he has to understand that whatever is once lost cannot be recovered as it is. We can bring the replacements, we can substitute that thing with another one, but that particular thing cannot be retrieved. And again, ball here is a symbol of worldly possessions, worldly belongings a person may have. And the figure of speech is, of course, symbolism. So no one can bring back such things for him, not even money. Money is external. Money can only, buy the replacement. Money can only bring the substitute. Money can't buy the original lost thing. It will not be able to buy that sense of belongingness that a person has with his or her things. So here another lesson which is worth learning is that money cannot buy everything. Money is something external. It cannot buy your emotions, it cannot buy your sense of belongingness. Then further, the poet says that the boy has learnt a lesson how to stand up against the sense of lost things. He has learnt the real truth of life. What is the real truth of life? That one has to accept the losses, the miseries of life and stand up again. One has to accept the losses bravely. So this was all about the poem. Let's understand the title, The Ball Poem. Of course, from the title, The Ball Poem, we do not understand much about the contents of the poem. It arouses the curiosity of the reader regarding the subject, like what will be there in the poem. But yes, it does deal with the ball being lost, but at a deeper level. It deals more with the process of learning to face a sudden loss and then compromising with this loss, accepting this loss. Let's read about the figures of speech of the poem. First of all is alliteration. Use of sound B at the start of two consecutive words buys a ball back. B, B and B. Then is the assonance, use of vowel sound E. He is learning well behind his desperate eyes. Repetition. Balls, balls will be lost always. The word balls stand for the possessions of a person that we have already discussed. Then what is he to do? Here the repetition of what emphasizes on the helplessness of the boy. What will he do? What is he going to do now when he has lost his ball? Then the epistemology of loss, how to stand up. Knowing what every man must one day know, and most know many days how to stand up. Here the phrase stand up has been repeated. It emphasizes the idea that one must accept a loss bravely. Then is the rhyme scheme. There is no rhyme scheme followed in the poem. Transferred epithet. Transferred epithet is the shaking grief. It is not the grief that shakes. It is the boy who is shaking with grief, who is trembling with grief. He is so grief stricken. So the quality given to the boy has been transferred to the word grief. Personification. Merrily bouncing down the street. So the ball is jumping happily like a human being. Here the ball has been personified. Then is the anaphora. You can see the first part in the consecutive lines, in the first and second lines have been repeated. The first part, what, merrily, merrily. When the first part is repeated, that is anaphora. First part in the consecutive lines is repeated, that is anaphora. So this was all about your poem. Dear students, you have to read the poem thoroughly and you have to do your assignments. Thank you and have a nice day.